Okay, now we're going to take a little bit about what we know about a clock and connect it to what we know about money, especially when we're talking about counting change, and just numbers, especially when we're talking about easy ways to count, okay? You can see you have a glare right there on this. Make sure you can see what I just wrote there. So we're going to talk about time, chunks, money counting chunks, and number counting chunks. Okay, let's go to time. We talked already about this kind of clock. This kind of clock is called an analog clock. We know it's got a shorthand that tells us about minutes. This is the little hand, the baby. No, I'm sorry, that's the big hand. The big hand tells us about minutes. And we also have the hour hand. So we have hour baby and minute man. Okay, so when we understand a clock, we need to know and remember how many about hours and about minutes and the relationship between the two of them. Well, when we look at a clock, it's, especially an analog clock, it's kind of telling us about that relationship just by the way it's set up. So we can see that there are hours, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hour, 6 hours, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours, right, are shown on a clock. Also, it's telling us about minutes, but it's because between each number on the clock, there's little marks that look like this. Okay? And when we're counting and talking about what these are in between, these are minutes, okay? So each chunk has 4 lines, and those lines are helping us see the distance between here and here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So these are actually minutes that we're measuring. There are 5 minutes between this number and this number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 minutes between this number and this number. And that's why when we count the clock, we count by 5. So we know that there's 5 between here and here, so we would count 5. Then there's another 5 chunk, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. And we know that when we get to the top, we're at 1 hour. That 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour. Okay. So when we count by chunks on a clock, you can count by 5-minute chunks. You can also, and that can help you figure out the time faster and easier, right? So the clock is put into chunks to make it easier for us to tell time, easier and quicker to read a clock. Now let's talk about money. We know that money, we've learned a lot about money, is broken into coins, right? We have our penny, our nickel, our dime, and our quarter. Those are our main bills, our main coins. A penny's worth 1, a nickel's worth 5, a dime's worth 10, and a quarter 25. So why do we have these values? Why do we have all these coins? We have them to make it easier to count up to 100, right? They're chunks. A penny's only giving us 1, so it's very similar to that little line on the clock that means 1 minute. A nickel is a chunk of pennies. It's 5 pennies chunked together. When we count by nickels, we can count by chunks of 5. Just like the numbers on the clock. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Those are chunks. A dime is worth 10. It's a chunk of 10. It's actually worth 10, so we can count by tens to get to 100 faster, right? And the biggest coin is the quarter. The biggest coin that we've studied is the quarter. And he's bigger chunks. It only takes 4 quarters to get to 100, which is the dollar. So our money system has chunks. Our clock system has chunks. And our number system has chunks. There's a couple important chunks to know about in our number system. We have these, which are ones. We have these, which are tens. And we have these, which are hundreds. And these chunks can help us count up and understand big numbers and small numbers. So if I had a number that was 137, I could draw a picture of that number or make an equation of that number that pulled it apart and showed me all the parts. I'd be talking about 100, 10, 20, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. I could also write that number in an equation and pull the number apart. 100 plus 3 tens, which is 30, plus 7 ones. That would be a way to show that number. If I wanted to show that value in money, I could have $1.37, or I could have 137 cents. Either way would show me that. I could draw a picture of that value by drawing $1, 3 dimes, and 7 pennies. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? And I would want to label these so I knew these were dimes and these were all pennies. Okay? I could also show 1 hour and 37 minutes, or 1:37 a.m. or p.m. on the clock by counting it in chunks. I could show the little hand hour, 1, and 37 big hand to show the minutes, like that on a clock. And I could count it 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, whoops, sorry about that, 35, 36, 37, okay? So all of these systems that we use in real life, our time system, our money system, and our number system, they all use chunks to help us figure them out. That's why you have to learn to count by ones, by fives, by tens, and understand the time system of 12s.